I hope that this will be a very interesting scientific session, a very pertinent debate on a very relevant topic in psychiatry. As we all know that diagnosis in psychiatry remains inexact as of now, and satisfaction rate with diagnosis in psychiatry remains poor. A lot of senior psychiatrists stop using any classificatory system and they rather use their own clinical sense which they have accumulated over the years. Along with these facts, new discoveries in genetics, neuroimaging technologies also threaten reliability and validity of our diagnostic systems. So with these new updates, this is a very pertinent debate that whether the clinical classification in psychiatry are at a crossroad, and people will be debating that whether perhaps it is time to say goodbye to ICD and DSM. Uh, Happy New Year to everybody who has joined this meeting. To chair the debate, we have with us two of our very senior and prominent members. I welcome Professor P.K. Dalal sir. I know that he does not need any introduction to this audience, but for completing the formality, Professor P.K. Dalal sir is head of the department at King George Medical University, Lucknow. He is also current president of Indian Psychiatric Society. Dr. Dalal sir has a large number of publications and books and book chapters to his credit, and he is one of the leading figure in addiction psychiatry in India as of now. Welcome, Dr. Dalal sir.
Thank you.
With us also joining is Dr. Professor Ravi Gupta sir. Professor Ravi Gupta sir is currently head of the department at AIIMS Rishikesh. He is also one of the leading figure in sleep medicine at both national and international levels. Dr. Ravi Gupta sir has more than 200 publications as shown in his ResearchGate profile, and is a very well-known figure in India, and also very thorough gentleman and humble person. Welcome you, Ravi Gupta sir.
Thank you, Adarsh.
Now I hand over the further proceedings to our chair for introduction of the topic and the debate further.
Ravi, you go ahead.
Sir, after you, sir.
Achha. Anyway, so good afternoon and Happy New Year to all of you. Co-chair Dr. Ravi, moderator Dr. Adarsh, speakers Dr. Rashmi and Dr. Ajay. It is as Dr. Adarsh was saying that it's really a very wonderful to have all of you, all the participants. It's an upcoming topic that whether this, we all know that we are following the syndromic diagnosis, and there are other classificatory systems like RDoC and NBN, that is neuroscience based nomenclature of pharmacological compounds. They are being talked about nowadays, that rather than labeling all the our psychiatry medicines as people think that they are no better than sleeping pills or things like that, or rather than telling them as hypnotics or anti-anxiety, antipsychotic, antidepressants, they should rather be classified on NBN classification, and that whether they are, say, if we take into consideration of antidepressants, whether they are tricyclic, bicyclic, tetracyclic, or they are SSRI or SNRI or things like that. Similarly, all the other anti-anxiety, psychotic and mood stabilizers and all these medications. So that is one way of thinking it, and to making it more popular, that is the medical model, that yes, we are using the medicines which is having a definite say neuronal this thing work, and which again gives the importance about the etiological sort of domain of uh, psychiatric illnesses as such. And as we all know that RDoC is not being taken up in DSM, and there were some discrepancy, and people stuck to DSM-5 and ICD-11, which is coming most probably next year. So they are all syndromic, the collection of symptoms. I would not say that it is time to say goodbye to ICD and DSM, because otherwise, if we follow the RDoC model, which actually encompasses biopsychosocial model, in which there are certain genetics, certain neuronal neurocircuitry, and all the other biological things, and that also caters to phenomenology, as well as certain epigenetic, genetic, and other environmental factors are also being taken into account. But uh, are we reaching there? To my mind, it appears that both sort of classification should be developed. One is syndromic, which we are following, and other one is sort of RDoC, means that all the other factors going towards the etiology, basically, that what is exact etiology, which we all know that it is very, very difficult to find out what is the exact etiology of our psychiatric illnesses. But we should not say stop as far as our progress is concerned. So everywhere the researches are going on, and as the things will unfurl, definitely one day we will reach to our etiological diagnostic system as well. But till then, I would say both the systems should be followed. So with these few words, I welcome all of you once again, and I expect that there will be a good debate and good question and answer sessions, and there will be certain take home messages. There are young speakers, young bright upcoming speakers are there, and I am sure they will do justice to it. Thank you. Ravi, your turn.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to dear friend Adarsh for inviting me to this session. It's indeed an honor to co-chair any session with a legendary figure like Professor P.K. Dalal. Uh, as rightly said by Adarsh and sir, there has been always a debate between the classification systems that we are using in psychiatry. And one of the major reasons for the major critics for the existing systems is the fact that these systems, they do not match with the neurobiological findings that we are having, and also for the treatment modalities that we are having for various disorders. So to overcome that, as mentioned by Sir, RDoC was thought, and in the same way, another school tried to develop the HiTOP, that is the hierarchical classification taxonomy of psychopathology. Now, the basic difference between the two is while RDoC is focused more towards the neurobiological research, HiTOP is more focused towards explaining the disorders and the symptomatology. So that is actually more close to the phenomenological diagnosis like ICD-11, 10, and DSM-5 that we have currently. But yes, the diagnostic system that we have now, they have their own limitations and their own advantages. On the other hand, if we look at the dimensional systems, whether we look at the RDoC or HiTOP, the major problem is we are still not able to develop any concrete taxonomy in any of these systems by which we can convey the patient's symptoms, probable prognosis, and probable treatment reliably to our colleague in just a simple word like we are doing with the existing categorical system. For example, we are using the depression or somatoform disorder, whatever it is. So we have two speakers who are young, bright, and probably at the end of the talk, we will be able to find out the advantages and disadvantages of all these systems, and we will see the road ahead from where we are standing today. With these words, I once again thank Adarsh and Torrent. And again, I would like to mention that it's indeed an honor and privilege to co-chair with legendary figure like Professor P.K. Dalal. With this, I hand over to the stage to again Dr. Adarsh Tripathi.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi Gupta, sir. I hope that Dr. Rasmi Sukla will be speaking first. So, to introduce our association with Dr. Rasmi Sukla is quite long. She has studied here in KGMC for her, she did her graduation, and she has a honor of being Hewitt medalist in KGMU, which is one of the most prestigious gold medal award for MBBS graduate students in KGMU. And she did PG in psychiatry at KGMU itself, and she has been a very bright student. Recently, she joined as a faculty member in AIMS, Rai Bareli. So, welcome, Dr. Rasmi Sukla.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm humbled with your kind introduction, and I feel privileged that you have given me the opportunity to speak on this platform. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, yes, you are on.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very happy new year. Today, I'm here to speak for the topic. My screen is visible to everyone. Can everyone see my screen?
Screen. No, ma'am.
Is it visible now?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, okay.
I request all other people to kindly mute their mic who are not speaking.
Okay, so I'm speaking for the motion. The topic is psychiatric classification at crossroads. Perhaps it's time to say goodbye to ICD and DSM. I have divided my topic into 4 broad categories. First of all, I will introduce the topic, and then I will highlight the issues with the current classification systems. And then from there, what is the way forward? And finally, the conclusion of the topic. So what is classification? Classification is the process by which the complexity of a phenomena is reduced by arranging them into categories according to some established criteria. Purpose of classification in psychiatry per se is to communicate with each other about the disorder with ultimate purpose to treat and prevent the disorders. It should also provide understanding of the cause of psychiatric disorders and the processes involved in their development and maintenance. For example, in medicine, diabetes is classified under endocrine disorders as disorder of impaired glucose regulation on the basis of pathophysiology. So the ultimate clinical utility of any classification system depend upon how well the diagnosis can direct the clinician to do a rapid diagnosis and effective treatment and prevention strategies for each individual patient. Keeping these points in mind about the classification, if we talk about our classification system, ICD and DSM, they do serve the purpose of communication well and to certain extent diagnosis as well as the treatment, but not the understanding of psychiatric disorder. We still define them categorically by their syndromes, and there are doubts if they are a valid discrete disease entities. Though we have come a long way till ICD-11 and DSM-5, but there are shortcomings. Let's discuss the shortcomings. First of all, I want to discuss syndromal approach and diagnostic inconsistencies which are there according to our classificatory system, ICD and DSM. Psychiatric diagnosis is still based mainly on the self-report of feelings and expression by patients with diverse backgrounds and on clinicians' understanding of psychiatric terms and observed behavior. Such subjective impression of complex phenomena can lead to diagnostic inconsistencies across the patients and practitioners. For example, if we talk about medicine, work in diseases like cancer and diabetes has moved ahead rapidly to the field of genomics and other biological tests, whereas psychiatric nosology still remains based on presenting signs and symptoms. There are, of course, good reasons for this lag, as brain is the most difficult and complex organ in our body to reach and to study. And also the psychiatric disorder affect the most complex functions. For example, motivation, cognition, and social process that are difficult to conceptualize and measure. Nevertheless, the science of brain and behavior has advanced to the point where it is possible and indeed necessary to forge new approaches that can use advances in brain and behavioral science to assessment and treatment. Also, if we talk about the DSM classification, categories have very strange property, sometimes being too broad in the sense that they identify remarkably heterogeneous population, and sometimes too narrow in the sense that many patients with a single DSM diagnosis actually qualify for two or more. Here, the proponents of dimensional approach to the diagnosis suggest that a more accurate view of any individual patient can be obtained by assessing them on a number of relevant dimensions rather than assessing them or pigeonholing them into a given diagnostic category. Further, because of heterogeneous nature of psychopathology in psychiatry, classification are polythetic in nature. By that I mean that patient has to meet certain number of criteria to qualify for a diagnosis. And following comment in the introduction to the DSM-3 that a misconception that all the individuals described as having the same mental disorder may well differ in their other important ways that may affect the clinical management and outcome. From this statement, we can infer that framers of DSM-3 were also aware of the individual difference within the categories that they had created. And if we fast forward ourselves to DSM-5, they were also quite explicit in acknowledging the problem regarding heterogeneity, fluid boundaries between the disorder, and other problems of diagnostic validity. It is again evident that the leaders of DSM-5 were aware of these issues and hoped to address. However, these issues and concerns largely remained unresolved and sparked further debate about the current approach to classification. The phenomenological heterogeneity means that the diagnostic category is likely to contain a large number of biologically distinct entities. This makes it difficult to link a specific disorder to a specific circuit or gene, further obstructing our research process. Because we know that the DSM and ICD categories do not map well to the emerging findings, which further hamper. And as most of the research is based on DSM and ICD criteria, these are the basis to obtain research grant and do research regarding the etiology and pathophysiology or to do any drug trial. Hence, the issues with the current nosology also affect the treatment development area as well. Further, very important area, the treatment in psychiatry is not particularly precise and tend to affect a broad range of disorder. For example, if we talk about antidepressants, we use them to treat depression, to treat anxiety and various other disorders. Similarly, with the antipsychotic, we use them to treat schizophrenia, sometimes to a personality disorder or other severe disorders. Similarly, with the anxiolytic for a wide range of psychiatric disorders. Further, sometimes we use these treatment modalities to clear our diagnosis because our classificatory system in itself is flawed and insufficient. when we are confused as a practitioner, as a clinician, if a patient present with a psychotic patient is presenting with mixed feature, we try lithium, and if he's responding, then we diagnose that patient as a bipolar disorder. And if he's not responding, then we treat that patient as a schizophrenic. And also, if we talk about the clinical realm, there are effective treatments, but there are various studies which shows that significant symptom remissions occur only in about half of the patients. Why so? Because again, we are not doing a targeted treatment. We are just like treating empirically. So after discussing all these issues, I would like to give this example of very common psychiatric illness, depression, to highlight the problem in identifying etiology and pathophysiology of psychiatric disorder defined by ICD and DSM. If we talk about depression, we see that a person, if we want to diagnose him as having a depression, he need to fulfill certain number of symptoms to be diagnosed. And in the criteria itself, there are several opposites. I'm always confused when I used to read the criteria, because there are, in one side, there are retardation, excessive sleep and weight gain. Then there, other side, there is agitation, poor sleep and weight loss. So these two different things. And if, for example, a researcher is planning research, then he's diagnosing the patient on the basis of ICD and DSM. So apart, if the patients are similar on the criteria only, but they are actually different. So the sample is heterogeneous, which further causes problem of research, treatment, and innovations, and generalization of those results of those researches. This diagram, I just want to present it here as, for example, if I'm diagnosing a patient as having depression, but that sign and symptom could be unipolar, could be bipolar, could be drug induced if a person is on any medication for physical health or any other which is inducing depressive symptoms, or maybe due to any loss, or maybe it could be post-schizophrenic depression. So as many causes can present as sign and symptom, and one etiology can give rise to different sign and symptom to any patient, or in fact, one patient can react differently to single stressor and present with different manifestations. So there is no relationship between etiology and clinical presentation. Now, so after discussing all these flaws in our current system, what is the way forward? National Institute of Mental Health initiated a framework for research, RDoC, research diagnostic criteria, to formulate research, especially as the sir has clearly mentioned, it does focus mainly on the neurobiological aspect, but it has biopsychosocial things as well. It focuses on what's going wrong, trying to get away from a mindset that it is the diagnosis that is causing things to go wrong. The intent of RDoC is to generate classification that is based on behavioral neuroscience, rather than starting with an illness definition and then going backwards to elucidate its neurobiological underpinnings. It does have potential to inform future version of psychiatric diagnosis, and it will help further when it will further have results, precise treatment for psychiatric disorder in future. This is the pictorial representation of RDoC framework. It has certain domains and certain units of analysis, including the environmental as well as the neurodevelopmental contexts. So in conclusion, after discussing all these conceptual issues, I would like to say that these things hamper not only the understanding of pathophysiology of psychiatric disorder, but also it will prevent progress in psychiatry. So what we need? We need a truly new approach to diagnostic classification that better reflect the underlying functions and dysfunctions of the complex brain and recent progress in genetics. We hope that The RDoC framework has potential for increasing our understanding of mental psychiatric disorder and consequently improving the classification. This, we can hope that it will be evidence-based, scientific, and valid system that can foster us as a clinician to practice precise medicine approaches to effective diagnosis, treatment, and ultimately prevention for psychiatric disorders. So it's the right time to move on and see and say bye-bye to ICD and DSM, our current classificatory systems. So I would like to end my talk by saying of a very, I find this poem very apt to my presentation by American-born British poet T.S. Eliot. What we call a beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. We shall not cease from exploration. And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rasmi, for your very nice and short presentation. You kept the time very well. Speaking for the motion, Dr. Rasmi emphasized a lot of issues which are there with current classificatory systems. Now I will invite Dr. Ajay Kumar to speak against the motion. Dr. Ajay Kumar has done his MBBS from MS Ramaiah Medical College, Bangalore in 2008. And he did his MD from psychiatry in 2011 from Kampagoda Institute of Medical Sciences in 2011. He has been there as a faculty member at Institute of Medical Sciences, IMS Agra. And thereafter he joined as a faculty member at AIIMS Raipur. He is a good friend and often remain involved in a variety of activities within psychiatry. Dr. Ajay Kumar is also a good friend. I invite Dr. Ajay Kumar for his presentation now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me share my slide. Yes. Okay, first of all, wish you a happy new year, all of you. And without wasting time, I shall start my presentation. I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, your slides are visible.
Yes, sir. So I will be speaking against the motion and saying that this is not the right time to say goodbye to DSM and ICD. So some amount of introduction is already been given by Dr. Rashmi, and I want to point out that making a classification is always a very important thing. And we know that the grand architect of one of the largest classification of nature, which we know him as Carl Linnaeus, he says that if you don't know the name of the things, the knowledge of them is lost too. So the importance of naming is very much required. The significance of classification in medical education and even in the psychiatry already been pointed out by Dr. Rashmi. So I will not discuss this slide. I will just go ahead and address the criticism. So the classification in mental disorders often been criticized, and all these criticism has four main focus. It's already that Dr. Rashmi was pointing out that we always think that the mental disorder are something different from the medical conditions. We say that these are multifactorial causation, they are heterogeneous, and because of that, we cannot adopt this categorical system and all that. We keep criticizing it. But I want to say that in medical condition also there is a heterogeneity. There are conditions which are very multifactorial in nature, like cancer, hypertension, and diabetes. They have very diverse causative factors. So we still use the categorical system for these conditions. So these arguments can be addressed. Now, other important area is the category versus dimensionals. People say that you are approaching categorically with a dimensional, with the dimensions of problems, which creating problems. Like it is not a healthy approach, which actually producing lots of artifacts in the form of comorbidities. So your classification is imperfect. The other thing is using rigid boundaries, taking arbitrary boundaries like demarcations. Like when we will decide that this problem is abnormal and this is normal. So people criticize that you are taking arbitrary boundaries. And it also happen in medical conditions also. For example, in hypertension, it is very difficult to decide when we say it is a hypertension and when we say it is a normal blood pressure. For example, body mass index, 29.9 is overweight, and when it becomes 30, it suddenly becomes obese. So such kind of arbitrary and deficiencies are there in most of the classifications which we use for medical conditions as well as in the psychiatric conditions. So if we see all these classifications, we see that I want to point out approaches. Okay, so what is the approach in the existing classification? Existing means especially the ICD and DSM, and the proposed classification, that is the RDoC classification, RDOC classifications. So we know that this classification primarily a classical hierarchical model, okay, which use categories, and these categories are formed on the basis of symptoms, course, and the onset and duration of illness. All these informations we use to make these categories, which looks very natural and feasible and can be easy to use in the psychiatric condition also. If we use a classification which is more relying on the biological factors, for example, RDoC, which has a difficulty when it has a problem because we will be neglecting the other factors. Okay, we know that only genetic vulnerability is not sufficient to have mental disorders. For example, we see identical twins. They do not have 100% concordance of the mental disorders. We have a very famous and dominant theme, diathesis stress model, which was dominant for decades. Okay, this holds good for explaining many of the psychiatric conditions. In biology, if we talk about biology, the epigenetic models itself pointed out the role of environmental influence over the expression of genes. So relying on the biological factors is not sufficient. The other thing is that there are a variety of domains like behavior, cognition, and affective. These dimensions cannot be understood on the basis of defective neural systems. It will be a very reductionistic approach if we use it, okay? And if we use it, then it will be lead to disproportionate attention to the one factor and diversion of resources to it, and it will neglecting the other important factor which has sufficient evidence in the causation of psychiatric conditions like psychological factors, social factors, and cultural factors. It is often been said that the psychopathological conditions, distinct psychopathological conditions, sometimes have the common neurobiological basis. It is quite prevalent in the natures. If we talk about the Carl Linnaeus, he has given the classification, categorical classification for the whole nature. And we often see that different type of species, which looks different, may have a common genetic material. DNA is quite common. So these diagnostic categories, basically, they reflect the meaningful recurrent symptoms. Okay, and categorical taxonomical system is necessary for the wider applications. So we have to see the purpose of classification here. If we see the ICD structure, it is doing well for collection of health statistics, allocation of mental health resources, clinical communications, decision making, and it is also doing well for the legal health insurance system, which is a very important part. Health insurance, getting a health insurance is a very important issue when we use a kind of a classification, even addressing the public health care needs. So ICD framework, basically it is used globally, and it is for the medical condition also, it is for the psychiatric condition also. Hence, it facilitates the coordination between the classification of the medical condition and the psychiatric condition as well. And it can also address the comorbid nature of the many medical conditions which occurs with the psychiatric conditions. So it somehow, bridge the disparity between the mental health field and the medical profession. Other criticism is that when we use strict boundaries and categories, there are chances that we lose certain amount of information. Okay, so these informations, what I want to say that these are deficiencies, and these deficient worth ameliorating with the supplemental dimensional approach, which actually gradually adopted by the DSM and the ICD. So they are scope of improvement, they are scope of modifications. For example, if we see DSM-5, it incorporated the concept of severity assessment and cross-cutting system. Okay, and in ICD-11 also, it is abandoning the artificial subtypes and using the severity dimensions for primary basis of classifying personality disorder with trait dimension of as a specifier. In contrast to RDOC focused on etiology, and its main purpose is to foster the research and find out the genetic and the neural circuitry dimensions of this behavior and the cognition and the affective, all these domains. Okay, and even the understand the environmental influence over this. So these basic difference in approach is there. If we see the RDOC and the moving, where it is moving, then we can say that the DSM and ICD model is achieving quite a lot. It is quite reliable. And it actually reliable and provisionally it's provide quite a lot organization in previously disorganized territories. In certain aspect, the DSM and ICD model has served us well. It facilitates epidemiological and etiological researches and contribute to the development of efficacious interventions that have alleviates the suffering of the countless individuals. RDOC providing a viable, this is the question whether the RDOC providing a viable alternative to DSM ICD model or not. What I say that these all psychobiological predisposition can express in diverse behavior patterns. Some are healthy and some are unhealthy. So it is very difficult that the RDOC alone will be able to explain the whole human behavior. Hence, it is unrealistic to expect RDOC to fully supplant a classificatory system such as DSM. Okay. Translating diverse corpus of findings into a feasible classificatory system seems to be very difficult task. Okay. Essentially, if we see that RDOC is a matrix which has heuristic blueprint to guide researchers, it is not a classificatory system. And if we see the history of RDOC, that initially it has been started to understand the neurobiological basis of behavioral domain, and later on it started taking, or it became an ambitious project to become a classificatory system. Okay, so in its course, it is diverted from its focus, if you see the journey of RDOC. So how RDOC finding will be translated into a usable system, that is ultimately challenge. Okay, it is a very challenging for RDOC to find a exact translation of human behavior. The focus on exploring neural circuit linked to psychopathology is okay. If you research on the basis to find out the basic neurocircuitry findings of human behavior, that's okay. But compile it, make it a domain, and use a mathematical formula to understand human behavior, which is very diverse, is very difficult. It will be like closing all the doors. RDOC project can provide lots of important information and lots of open-ended possibilities. But if we use it as a classificatory system, then it is very difficult. Now, many researches, which is based on the psychological construct and the other researches, they frequently display that these converting these psychological factors into the mathematical formula and analyze them in a laboratory, this display a low level of temporal and cross-situational consistency, because all these factors are situational, have situational uniqueness, and there are immense of factors which actually interplay and influence each other. So these factors are dynamic in nature, and it is very difficult to analyze and predict something from it. Now, if we look at the research, when the RDOC project was initiated, there are investigators which are using this RDOC system, and we see the review. Some of the reviews, I found that much of the research actually conducted in the United States, and most of them are actually funded by National Institute of Mental Health. So we found that there are some incentives to these research. Okay. So if we see the last 6 years of research, we found that there are disparities. So my point is that if we use this kind of classificatory system, we may require a different design. It can influence our research design. Even there may be disparities, okay, because of the fundings, because of the incentives, because of even the ease of conducting these researches. Okay, so we find that the greater number of researchers actually directed to explore cognitive domain, cognitive symptoms, negative and positive valency system, because they are well constructed in RDOCs. And people understand them well because of that, there are more researches. But the other areas, which are like arousal and regulatory system and social process, these kind of domains in RDOCs are less examined. So there are disparities in outcome of the research. It may be speculated that the construct of related to because of the well construction of these domains, there are more researches in these frameworks. So with this, my conclusion is that the DSM and ICD model is much older. It's like an old friend, who is very reliable and who will serve us well. There are possibilities that we can modify it. We can make it more dimensional, and we can use a conservative approach by modifying it and use it for future, while abandoning it and use it entirely new classification whose bases are not totally different and fundamental goal is very different, will be a very radical approach. So it is pertinent to adopt a conservative approach with modification in the existing classificatory system. So this is not the right time to say goodbye to DSM and ICD-10. In the end, we both came to the same places. I will not read the slide because it's already read. So with that, I end my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ajay, for a very informative and very interesting presentation. And you made a presentation like do not rock the boat and be as what it is. So is there any, sir, is there any chairperson's comment before we move to rebuttal?
Adarsh, I think we should invite sir first.
Dalal sir? Hello, Dr. Dalal sir?
हाँ बोलो.
Sir, is there any chairperson's comment before we move to rebuttal?
नहीं, go ahead with the rebuttal.
Okay. So, yes, Dr. Rashmi.
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to ask one question, as you mentioned about that, and you are right in saying so that dimension, this ICD and DSM based research has poured a lot of evidence in our existing evidences. But I would like to ask, what about the waste basket, जो हम कहते हैं जिन्हें not otherwise specified diagnosis in ICD and DSM? So, what is the relevance of those diagnoses in research, and what is the drawback of that? Because these population is almost excluded from the research, or sometimes making the findings not generalizable if we do include them.
Yeah, it is there that these comorbidities and all these diagnoses, like you mentioned, NOS categories, these are one of the point where the criticism comes. But over the period, we see that all these categorical system has adopted some kind of dimensional approach also, like their provision of intermediate categories, like when schizophrenia and bipolar, then people make a category with schizoaffective disorder, and then depression and psychotic, that they made depression with psychosis and all that. So what is that there are efforts that to provide intermediate categories, to provide more flexible, inclusive kind of a construct of a two-digit syndrome, so that the comorbidities decrease.
ठीक है.
So these kinds of efforts are there. The people say that these comorbidities basically shows that there is a defect in the system. What I am pointing out, that there is a defect in all the classificatory system, even in the biggest classification of the nature. So when we address to a very diverse condition, very diverse situation, it is very difficult to categorize them. So better to slowly develop and then include them. These NOS category often, if you take good history and investigate them properly, most of the conditions actually find some appropriate categories. Most of the time, these NOS category invariably use in more prevalence because of the lack of investigations.
Okay, thank you, sir. Would you like to ask any question?
Yeah. See, one of the benefit of this categorical taxonomical system is that invariably clinicians has inclination towards it. People can better understand it, and even the public health and the allocation of resources, even the dealing with legal matters, insurance, all these is quite a feasible with these categorical system. I want to know, if we use RDoC system, whether all these issues will be addressed properly or not.
This is a good question, sir. Thank you. RDoC system is not yet a classificatory system. It is just a framework for research, which is still in the phase of development and still evolving. So at this point of time, it's too early whether it is going to help for any the matters which you mentioned, obligated issues or insurance and other things. It is not answerable at this stage, because as the time passes, the research will be there, findings will be there, and then further it might, as you suggested, that it might help in improvisation of our present classification system. Then definitely, for example, if throughout RDoc funding, if we are able to find out the biomarker for the genetics, for the neuroimaging findings, and the endophenotypes, then we are able to, for example, in insurance, the patient, we can give patient that yes, he is having this confirmatory diagnosis. This is the etiology, this is the time duration of the treatment, and then there is evidence for his illness, which is not at present. So definitely in future, when we have enough evidence, it will definitely help in all these areas for sure. Hello.
Yes. Any other comments by speakers before we move to question and answer session?
No, sir. Thank you.
If there are any questions, they can be typed in the chat box. Meanwhile, I will invite the comments by chairpersons before moving further. Hello, Dr. Dalal sir. Yes.
No, Ravi, do you want to say anything? Or
Sir,
do you want to comment anything, or shall we comment at the end after
sir,
going through the Q&A?
yes, sir. I think we can go after the Q&A.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sir, thank you, sir.
Others, go ahead with Q&A.
As of now, we don't have any questions here. I request if there are any questions, they can be typed or can be put here in the presentation. So, there is a question by Dr. Purushottam. He is asking that can RDoc and ICD-DSM be combined for comprehensive classification? Yes. Any speaker?
Ajay sir,
Yes.
Ajay sir, would you like to answer this question, because I am against this, but definitely this is a very good suggestion, the combined possibility, because the good thing should be incorporated in the present system, as you rightly mentioned, a conservative approach to the classification involving everything in one. So that will be comprehensive as well as conservative as well, involving biopsychosocial and the neurological research system.
Yes, I have pointed out in my slide that initially RDoc is not been started
Would like
as
to
a.
add something.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So as I pointed
Yes,
out,
sir.
I'm addressing to Dr. Purushottam. Basically, see this RDoc model providing very important information, which I have pointed out in my presentation, that it is very important to find about the behavioral translation into the neurosecretory translation into the behavior, which can be an important thing to incorporate with the current existing DSM or ICD model, which definitely will help to improve this classification. So amalgamation of these two approaches can be done, but choosing RDoc alone will be very radical and very problematic. That is the anticipation raised by many of the people.
Is there any other question? I don't see any question here right now. So, uh, mm, can I ask a question before we end this question and answer session? So, what do you think that the recent advances in genetics and neuroimaging, how they are threatening our current classificatory system? Like to keep things in perspective, we see large genetic researches and we see that the most of the genetic correlates of schizophrenia, bipolar, autism, ADHD, they are coming from a common pool. There are no specificity in terms of genetic causation. Like in the same way, in quite a lot of time, we see that neuroimaging data also remains quite sort of non-specific, and the findings often does not point out towards any specific disorder. They do differ from a normal healthy control group, but clarification among the disorders are very poor. And the same happens for neuropsychological and neurocognitive findings. So, what do we think that as of now, the findings has not matured so that it can influence the classificatory system, or we need to think in a radical new way, and our present classificatory systems are hindering this new way of thinking? What are comments by speakers?
So my answer to this question would be that again the problem in the classificatory system, because we will not be able to identify the underlying mechanism. As you mentioned, the findings are not generalizable because we are not able to delineate the categories. It is not possible until we identify the boundary between the disorder, because our criteria for any research is also based upon the DSM and ICD. So if we are taking a heterogeneous population, which is actually different in basic dimensions, and so how can the result be generalizable to the common population?
Ajay, do you have any comments on this?
Okay. Shall I respond?
Yes.
As you mentioned, sir, that advancement in the genetics is threatening the current diagnostic system. I feel that we shouldn't see it as a threat. And it's a important information which we are gathering and slowly coming up. And instead of taking as a threat and developing as a new system, there is a scope of modification of current existing system. So that we have to see. Okay, and there are many things which beyond our eye or even beyond our knowledge. Even in natural classification, also there are species which we not known and discovered later, and then we find out where to categorize them. So this current system looks more natural. Okay, we should have a natural approach rather than having an artificial approach. So gathering all these information, useful information, neurobiological markers, and the radiological findings and all that can support the current existing.
Thank you very much, speakers, for your presentations and your comments. I request chairpersons to give their concluding remarks now.
Ravi, you go ahead. After
Sir.
I will speak. Okay.
So it's been really a good debate between, and we listened to both the sides of the story. And I think the key message is, if we look at Dr. Ajay Kumar, he pertinently mentioned that most of the medical disorders, they also have the psychosocial domain, yet they do not challenge their own categorical diagnosis. And similarly, Dr. Rashmi talked about the dimensions that can be included in the RDoC and how can it change our understanding towards the psychotic disorder. But I personally feel that both the things are not mutually exclusive. I think we may go ahead with the existing classification system. We can try to refine it based on the newer developments and the knowledge that we accumulate with the help of further genetic and other biological research. But at the same time, it does not mean that the importance of the psychosocial domains would be lessened in the psychotic disorders causation as well as the management. So these kind of domains, because they are versatile, they are having too many factors which are difficult to be amalgamated into a classification system. So I think they can be kept separate. And for the understanding of classification, I think we can focus on the neurobiology based classification system as we have for most of the other medical disorders like diabetes, hypertension, stroke, and many more. Thank you very much. And over to Professor Dalal, sir.
Okay, it was really a very nice presentation by both the presentators. And as Ravi, you have said, I mean, initially there was categorical, then there was some dimensional approach was added when it was made a what you call multi-axial classification. And then there is in DSM, we also see a psychosocial formulation kind of a thing. Psychosocial factors are also there, which can also be, and they have given a scale also on which we can really say assess them. So all these things are happening in fact. But what you have said is also right, that from the neurobiological perspective or genetic and other neurocircuitry perspective, what you have said is there is no need to amalgamate, because otherwise it will create a confusion. Rather, as RDoC, we should go ahead with maybe positive symptoms, maybe with negative symptoms, maybe with cognitive symptoms, maybe with affective symptoms, and all these things kind of thing. And if we really find out something very, very interesting, or something which has got what you call, you can call that is a valid biomarker with a good validity and specificity, then that can come up of its own. What Rashmi has said also has a point, because we see at times non-psychiatrists, they even treat psychosis with antidepressants and patients get well. If you take history from them कि डॉक्टर साहब ये दवाई ले रहे थे और हमें आराम था, or maybe vice versa. So these kind of things, they also happen. So what the medicines are doing, which medicines are actually effective, although it is there that antipsychotics are there, antidepressants are there, mood stabilizers are there, and benzodiazepines are there. So, but they work in both the directions. Schizophrenia with depressive symptoms, we add at times antidepressants. Depression with psychotic symptoms, we add antipsychotics. These are all symptomatic kind of a treatment which we actually do in psychiatry, rather than doing a sort of a disease which we are treating per se. And there is also concept of spectrum disorders, because they keep on changing. So all these things are there, and therefore a dimensional approach, therefore a lifetime diagnosis concept is there, rather than what you call a chronological diagnosis. So all these things are adding flavor to the diagnostic system. But as Dr. Ravi has said, I think both the classificatory systems should persist, but they should go on with their own researches. And whoever establishes, then at that point of time, if amalgamation is required, it can be thought of that whether that can be a better one, or whatever it is time will tell. So it is not the time still to say goodbye, but both the diagnostic systems like RDoC and ICD and DSM can persist together and researches can go on. That is my take. So while concluding, I would say really it is a very good talk by both the speakers and good, I would say, discussion. And I thank Dr. Ravi. And now it is over to Adarsh for concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a very nice debate, and it is my duty and pleasure to offer vote of thanks at the end. Thank both the chairpersons for sparing their valuable time for this discussion and debate, and their very meaningful, clinically oriented comments. I also thank both the speakers who did very interesting and very informative presentations and kept their time well also. So thank both of them for giving us a very meaningful, clinically oriented. I thank all the participants who joined this presentation and all the people who contributed in the present presentation in directly or indirect way. I thank Torrent Pharmaceutical for providing support with this activity. Now I hand over the mic to representative of Torrent Pharmaceutical for their comments and conclusion of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir. I, Ramesh Chaturvedi, I would like to extend my sincere vote of thanks for your gracious participation in this Manthan debate, sir. I also take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Dr. P.K. Dalal, to Professor Dr. Ravi Gupta, and the speakers Dr. Rasmi Sukla and Dr. Ajay Kumar, and of course, moderator Dr. Adarsh Tripathi, sir. Without their valuable contribution, without their support, sir, it would have been very difficult for us to conduct this event, sir. At this juncture, I would like to highlight that Torrent, being the first neuropsychiatry company, we are celebrating the 50th years of service in the field of neuropsychiatry. Thank you so much. I once again thank you all and wish to welcome you all in the upcoming Manthan debates in the coming months. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With your permission, I'm closing the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.